Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Norji B. Salik, the assigned reporter for the viewing techniques of receptive macro skills viewing. Receptive macro skills, such as viewing, involves processing and understanding visual text like image, videos, charts, advertisements, or presentation. Teaching and learning techniques for developing skill viewing can enhance comprehension and critical thinking. Previewing. Activate prior knowledge. Discuss topics or themes related to visual content to prepare students for what they will view. Activating prior knowledge is a great technique to prepare students for new content. This helps students make connection between what they already know and for the new content they will encounter. Second, prediction exercises. Show part of the visual or its title and ask the learners to predict what might be about. For prediction exercises, encouraging predictions primes students for content they are about to view, tapping into their curiosity and critical thinking. How to implement the prediction exercises. For instance, show a partial image or a snippet of a video, or simply provide a title of the visual content and ask the students to make prediction. For example, show an image of a stormy sky and ask, what do you think this video might be about? And you can also ask the students predict the mood, message, or the outcome of the visual sequence based on the initial clues. Ask the students make predictions. Encourage them to explain their reasoning, which can deepen their engagement with the content. So what is the importance of prediction exercises? It activates critical thinking and helps students focus their attention. It encourages them to think actively as they watch, looking for evidence that confirms or challenges their predictions. Let's move on to the setting a purpose. Giving learners specific questions or objectives for viewing, such as focusing on details or themes. This strategy provides structure and direction, ensuring that students focus on the key aspects of the actual content while avoiding distraction. For instance, before showing the visual, give the students specific questions or objectives to focus on while viewing. For example, as you watch, pay attention to the filmmaker conveys the message of the importance of preserving wildlife, or focus on how images of the city in the advertisement reflect the values of the brand. And provide students with a guided worksheets or prompts that direct them to specific themes, details, or techniques within the visual text. You can also give students a purpose to relate both content and form, such as consider both emotional tone and message conveyed through the visual elements. The benefits of setting a purpose help students focus on specific elements of the visual content, leading to deeper analysis. It also ensures that the viewing experience is intentional and not passive. That's it for the previewing. By using these techniques, you can scaffold students' viewing experience and foster more interactive and an analytical approach to visual context. These techniques only prepare them to engage with a material, but also enhance their ability to interpret, critique, and learn from visual effectively. Now, let's move on to the during viewing. Number 1 is guided note-taking. Provide graphic organizers or worksheets to record observation while viewing. These strategies further support active engagement with visual text, helping students to develop their deeper understanding and ability to analyze visual or viewing. The guided note-taking, these techniques help students to organize their thoughts and observation during the viewing process, reinforcing key points and aiding retention. For instance, provide students with a graphic organizers or structured worksheets before they begin viewing. These tools can include section by jotting down observations and details, themes and personal reactions. Observation tasks ask learners to focus on specific elements like colors, symbols, or body language that convey meaning. Observation tasks direct students to focus on specific visual elements that convey meaning. It helps them to break down visuals, communicate beyond just the content itself. For instance, ask the students to pay attention to specific elements in the visual, such as colors, how different colors evoke different emotions, symbols, that recurring motifs or imaginary, or the body language, how people are positioned, their facial expressions or gestures, or lighting, bright versus dim lighting to suggest mood. Provide a clear target question like what role does the color play in this scene? How do body language and facial expressions of characters contribute to the overall message? Or what does the use of space in this image? Now, for the chunk viewing, divide the content into sections, pausing for discussion or clarification between parts. Chunk viewing breaks the content into manageable sections, allowing students to pause or reflect each segment. This technique helps prevent cognitive overload and encourage more thoughtful analysis. For instance, divide the visual content into shorter sections. For example, 10-minute video can be divided into 2 to 3 chunks. After each section, pause the viewing to facilitate discussion or clarification in every 2 to 3 minutes chunk. During the pause, ask the students to reflect on what they have seen so far, or either individually or into small groups. You can prompt them with the questions like what happened in this section, what happened, or what was the new ideas or details emerge, or what questions do you have about the what you just saw. Use breakpoints to help students process key moments in the visual. For example, a pivotal moment in a documentary or video, pause to analyze the emotional tone, symbolism, or message being communicated. The importance of chunk viewing into students, it gives them time to absorb information and reflect on it before moving forward. It also provides natural pauses for discussion, clarification, or addressing questions, helping them to prevent confusion and reinforcing understanding. Now let's move on to the post-viewing of the viewing techniques. Discussion and reflection facilitate group discussion to analyze the visual content and its message. Facilitating group discussions allows students to share different perspectives, process the content, and reflect their own interpretations. It also strengthens their communication and collaboration skills. For example, after the viewing session, organize a small group discussion or the whole class conversation. Prompt students to reflect on key themes, messages, or emotional responses from the visual text. For instance, what is the main message of this visual rather? How did the imaginary make you feel? Encourage the students to justify their interpretations by pointing the specific elements from the visual, for instance, the lighting, symbols, body language. Use a open-minded questions to stimulate critical thinking, such as why do you think the creator choose the particular symbol, or how does this visual relate to the our current understanding of the topic. The benefits of the discussion and reflection is to foster critical dialogue, encourage students to articulate their thoughts and expose them to a variety of perspectives, enhancing their understanding of the material. For the second, critical analysis encourage learners to evaluate the creator's intent, bias, or persuasive techniques. This technique helps students to develop the ability to evaluate the intent, bias, and persuasive techniques used by the creator of the visual content. It encouraging them to think more critically about the media and communication. For example, encourage the students to ask key questions like what is the creator's intent, what was the message that they are trying to convey, or what was the techniques that are used to persuade the viewer. For example, the emotional appeals, statics, visual metaphors. By encouraging critical analysis, it empowers the students to be more discerning consumers of media or visual, helping them to understand how viewing can shape opinions and influence behavior. Now, summarization. Have learners summarize the content verbally or in writing. Summarization helps reinforce students' understanding by encouraging them to distill the key points or ideas from the visual content, aiding retention and comprehension. For instance, ask the students to summarize the visual content either verbally or in writing. Like, in a few sentences, describe the key message of this advertisement, or what are they trying, or what are the main ideas presented in a documentary you just viewed. Focus on both content of what happens in the visual and the purpose why the creator made it, and what message is conveyed. You could also have the students create a summary chart or timeline of the main events or themes in a video or image series. By doing summarization, it helps students to synthesize information, ensuring they can recall key elements and understand the essence of the visual content. It also reinforces critical thinking by focusing on the core message. Now, let us move on to the comparative analysis. Compare the visual text to related materials like written text or other visuals to deepening the understanding. Comparing visuals with other materials deepens understanding by highlighting similarities and difference, and also contrasting perspectives, thereby enriching students' analytical skills. For instance, compare the visual text to a related written text or visual materials. For instance, advertisements, news stories, or paintings on the same theme, and ask the students like how does these advertisements compare to the article we read about the same issue, or what was the similar themes or messages do you see in this video and the infographic that we have studied. By using comparative analysis, it helps students see different representations of the same concept, broadening their understanding and sharpening their analytical skills. And it also encourages students to think critically about different formats and medium can influence the message being communicated. That's all from my part. The viewing strategies will be discussed by Miss Myra Katil, my partner. And thank you for lending your ears. Good day, everyone.